broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
No, I think she is.
Is she? I thought that was another... maybe the same channel, different show.
You're thinking of
Access. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Never mind. I said corrected. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, we are here to I can't even talk. We are here to discuss a fun-filled, fantastic, fun-filled fight. Night full of fights.
You're just all kinds of happy jittery, aren't you?
Fantastic.
Fun-filled, fantastic.
Fantastic filled.
Great, Jesse.
Phenomenal fights.
Yep.
Does it count if it's alliteration, if it's with the PH? Or does it matter just because how it sounds phonetically?
It counts. You know what? It counts on iTunes. Doesn't count on
Oh, really?
YouTube. Yeah.
So if you look up alliteration, I'll find it on iTunes, but not YouTube.
Oh, are you asking? I thought you were asking if you get points for the alliteration for if you use PH.
Yeah.
Well, you do on iTunes.
Oh, really?
But not on YouTube.
Okay, well, good to know.
People are seeing your lips move and they know it was a PH.
Okay, I see what you mean. All right, well, we are here to discuss UFC Fight Night 85, which was taken place at Brisbane, Australia, at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre. I am George Hermoza here with J10 as always.
Hello.
Why don't you say where people can find you on the Twitter machine?
You can find me right now in the chat room of YouTube, UFC Hunt vs.
If they're
review.
listening to us on YouTube, they're not going to find us, or listening to us on iTunes.
Well, maybe I'm still hanging out there. You don't know?
I thought they
you can find me in the comments section, of course. No, J10-716, as always, of course, and just hitting up my man Joe Boza, our chief cornerman here, is in the chat room, and joining up, and George Hermoza as well.
No, I was going to say, I agree with Joe Boza. By the way, you can find me at GHermoza, GHERMOZ, Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Snapchat, etc., etc. But I agree with Joe Boza in the fact that I thought it was a fantastic night full of fights yesterday.
You dug it?
Yeah.
I would give it a thumbs in the middle. It's strange because there was good action. Mm-hmm. You know, on paper, it's probably a thumbs up, but maybe it was just my mood. Yesterday, sitting through all 5 hours of fights, not so much.
I mean, just compared to the previous event, obviously UFC 196. You know, obviously a lot of people were talking about the last two fights and nothing but. I mean, obviously, I think there are a lot of people that can't even remember the third fight to the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, not that many people can do that, but I think yesterday's fight, I think from top to bottom, it truly delivered, including some of the prelims as well.
Delivered, but I don't know that people are going to remember it.
Oh,
I mean, this was not this is not going to be a standout, high-ranking event of the year. You know, and that's
just the
maybe
way
I'm being a bit too critical.
I think
off
it's
the
bat. the way it is of the business in general. You don't really remember the fight nights. You know, more so than the pay-per-view. You remember the big pay-per-view. You know, that's why they're on pay-per-view, because they're a bigger draw in general.
And this wasn't necessarily a fight night that had a lot of direct and immediate relevance to the top five rankings in each. But you know, I'm looking at the rundown and the results here. Can't say it didn't deliver. Let's see. 12 fights. We had we had 5 decisions, but excuse me. Mark Hunt over Frank Mir, KO in the first, just 3 minutes and 1 second. Neil Magny over Hector Lombard in a fantastic
I think that was the only fight that kind of had repercussions in that division. Neil Magny, obviously his stock soaring a little bit high. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But
TKO, a great come from behind, high water mark for Neil Magny. Neil Magny once again over Hector Lombard, TKO in the third. Jake Matthews, the Celtic kid, who I think, a kid with tons of potential and still on the rise, over Hollywood Johnny Case with a submission in the third. That got Fight of the Night accolades. The performance bonuses went to Magny and also Mark Hunt, both absolutely deserving guys. And, there were some other guys that were also deserving, I'd say. on the bottom.
Yeah, there were a lot of good guys.
Yeah, still going.
And don't be surprised if maybe, like you said, like he's done before, kick a little bit something. Maybe not officially
backstage
a bonus award,
stuff,
but just just for a lot of people definitely did come and show up.
Yeah. Dan Kelly, TKO over Antonio Carlos Jr. in the third. Steve Bossy finally making a mark for himself in the UFC. Over James Hoonah, KO in the first, under a minute. Beck Rawlings over Sohee Ham by decision. Our guy Alan Jouban, another first-round finish over Brendan O'Reilly by TKO. Wicked elbows and punches, just trademark Jouban there. Dan Hooker over Mark Adiva by submission in the first. Leslie Smith, decision over Rin Nakai. Viscardi Andrade over Filthy Richard Walsh by decision. Ross Pearson over Chad Laprise, Alan Patrick, Damian Brown, both by decision.
I don't have to do that now. Later on.
Well, we run it through and we just
all right. Next topic.
Talk about it.
Yeah,
right.
Let's talk about it. Tomorrow night. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about the top of the card. Mark Hunt versus Frank Mir. Number 9 versus number 10. Like you mentioned earlier, not a fight that would probably rock the heavyweight division.
Right.
Obviously both guys. I don't want to say past their prime, but let's be real. I mean, they're definitely not going to be the face of UFC in 5 years.
Yeah, if we're talking about
3 years.
If anyone starts talking about a Masters division at any time soon, there are some candidates right there. But Mark delivered. He is Oceania's guy. Oceania being Australia and New Zealand and whatever other parts. I'm not quite sure. Somebody, Joe Boza, fact check me there, or anybody else around. But certainly those two countries. But with the walk around or the walk away punch,
walk off punch,
landing early, in the 3
First
minutes.
round.
But yeah, Frank Mir kind of. What did you think of it? I mean, it was kind of that one clash to me was the only thing really going on there.
I've been a big fan of Frank Mir for the longest time, and I always bring him up every time he fights. Is to me the highlight reel of him versus Nogueira the second time around. The most beautiful jiu-jitsu I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
After you can watch it on Fight Pass at any time. It was the same night as John Jones versus Lyoto Machida. I think it was like December 19th around there of 2011. So look it up. Mir versus Nogueira. Like, oh my god, like I beautiful, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. But the thing about Frank Mir is he shows up in different shapes.
Oh, and the shape that he showed up that night, huh?
And when I mean shape, I don't mean in shape or out of shape. I just mean shapes.
Yes.
Like literally
forms, objects.
I remember when he fought Shane Carwin, he just stocked up and just bulked up.
Right.
But, obviously, and then there were times where he looked a little bit thinner, but yesterday just... I don't know what that guy... I mean, he wasn't... It looked like he really did show up to fight Mark Hunt, if anything. He showed up in Mark Hunt shape.
Yeah. There was a little bit of punch going over the top of the fighter's kit there. You're right. It is... Frank is one of those guys that always has been a matter of which Frank Mir shows up, which fighter shows up. And he came in heavier than in the past. I'm trying to remember... I mean, he got as far down when he was lifting, and it may have been for the Shane Carwin fight or so... he was leaning down into the 240s, and he
was up there against Shane Carwin.
I believe he was either 260 or 264. I think those were the two weights for that match. The guys chimed in on there, but it was. It looked like he was looking to. I saw him change levels, and he was changing levels a little bit early, and Mark just came in and. I thought at first it was an uppercut. Mark seemed to be having some success with the uppercut there, but. Landed the overhand right behind the ear. The old headphones rule. It's legal. Do you know about the headphones versus the mohawk rule?
No.
Okay. Behind the ear. Quick segue, guys. Here's your Education 101 with defining what's the back of the head. Because there were
real
a lot
quick,
of back of the head
because I was always curious about that too, and it wasn't until I was backstage at the last U of MMA, and some of the refs before the fights kind of went over everything, and I guess they technically said as long as you touch the ear.
That's one criteria, kind of. It's surprising. You would think, guys, that shots to the back of the head, which we know are illegal and dangerous.
Just to the back in general, too, even like the spine.
Right. You would think would be defined as we're wearing headphones here. The crescent, the headphones, anything behind the ear technically would be considered back of the head, right? Technically not so, actually. There is another rule that they call the mohawk rule, which is if you cut yourself a mohawk all the way down the middle of your head to the back, that's the part that still has hair, the part, leading directly down to the spine, that's actually considered the back of the head. Because it is, I'm not sure if this is exactly the reason, but it's very difficult. There's a gray area, pardon the pun, neuro joke, in terms of landing a punch to the back of the head, but still within it's, with the head moving, it's very difficult to call a shot back of the head and call a shot illegal.
I mean, it's
to the
one
back
of
of
those
the
where
head.
if you're aiming for the part of the head that's legal, and the guy just happened to turn his head and you hit the back of the head, that's not illegal.
Right. Yeah, and that area, which is the gray area, kind of is right between the ear to the left side or right side of the mohawk, if you will. So that's kind of the difference between the two. But point to this whole thing being that Mark Hunt landed perfectly right behind the back of the ear there, and that rattled Frank clearly. He dropped, and Mark just said, "Yeah, that's all right. Done, enough damage done."
Yeah.
Did you think? I'm surprised that some people haven't talked about it being a bit of an early stoppage more, because I felt that I didn't see Frank's body go limp. His head stayed up when he was on the ground. There may have been a daze in his eyes, and that may have been very well the reason why the ref called it. It was Mark Goddard, who is known for a pretty strong general.
I mean, as we clearly see, and I mean, obviously, this is is nobody has a better angle than the fight than the actual ref himself. The only person allowed to be in the cage in general. So I'm sure whatever he saw, warranted it. But I'm always I thought the same thing until I saw that Frank Mir wasn't protesting it.
True.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's usually that where it's like, what does the other guy think? Did the other guy think it was early stoppage? I mean, he obviously knew that maybe he was done, or obviously maybe he had trouble getting up for like a split second, and obviously Mark Hunt. We all love Mark Hunt for the walk-off KO.
It looked like he was still in open guard, Frank Mir was, and still conscious.
Yeah.
Certainly rattled, but I was surprised that there wasn't there wasn't more of a protest or post-fight conversation about that. There certainly were some conversations about the scoring and the scoring and judging in this show on a couple of matches. Real quick though, Amar Singh has joined us in the chat room. He says Jake Matthews looks like the real deal. I tend to agree with you. He's been my pick for a guy to watch. I think last year and this year. He had a tough match. I suppose he didn't look like a world beater, but perhaps that was just really, to be fair, he had a really tough match in Hollywood Case. I may be overthinking things.
I know we talked about a bit last time he fought, and again we said the same thing. The kid's only 21 years old.
There's that too. Yeah.
So I mean, this guy is going to get better and better.
Sage Northcutt. Yeah. Oh, gee, what a comparison! Shut up, Jay.
But I mean, from a fan perspective, like that whole walk-off Mark Hunt, KO, do you think that's respectful, disrespectful? Like, it is what it is, or?
Yeah, it is what it is. Every knockout is different. I was watching some of his earlier work earlier today, past matches, and not all of them are just one punch, drop timber, guy goes stiff. Nate Quarry from Anderson Silva kind of knockouts. A lot of them are just like guys just crumble on that punch, and rightly so. It certainly is respectful that you walk away from the defensive opponent's standpoint. You're not taking any more punches. I mean, Mark Hunt has that right. That until the referee is fast enough to get his hands on Mark and stop the offending fighter, that the offending fighter, the winning fighter, should be continuing the fight until the referee stops it.
See, for me, it's the equivalent. Maybe this is a bad comparison. To me, it's and I love it. I love both one. The comparison I'm about to make is it's the guy at the batter's box swings and just drops
in baseball
swings the bat, and I love that. And I love
what happens.
I know a lot of people criticize guys, like Jose Bautista, who plays for the Blue Jays, when they swing, they hit it, it's a home run, and they flip the bat. That's one of the biggest,
Is it? It's a sign of disrespect.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's one of those things where
it's just like Jay-Z brushing it off kind of thing.
Or dropping the mic,
Well, okay. Yeah.
But it's like, it's kind of, in baseball, that is kind of disrespectful. And to me, I'm looking at it as, well, don't pitch him a home run then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me,
if you got it, flaunt it, right?
And the Mark Hunt walk-off, it's like, oh, if you're gonna get knocked out, then, the guy knocking you out has every right to, he's not stomping on your throat. He's not, rubbing it. If anything, he is backing off because he doesn't want to give you more punishment.
Yeah.
So I know every single time.
Fight, a post-fight antic of taunting a guy.
Yeah,
that I think is worse.
Yeah.
And that I guess that would probably be the analogy in terms of baseball. Flipping the thing is kind of, showing off right in front of the pitcher. But in this case, the pitcher in MMA is on the ground and dazed and not looking at you anyway. You're not doing it to his face necessarily. But it is. What's amazing is that Mark Hunt has so many of those, that he has that one-punch power, and he's able to go back to it and land it so frequently that it's a trend with him. It's his thing, I'm trying to think of other guys that have trademark moves. I don't know, Pettis with the fancy kicks. Who else? Phil Davis sometimes with his bizarre submissions and things. Yeah. And Mark Hunt. Joe Boza in the chat room says, if Frank's contract does expire, I could see Scott Coker trying to sign him up like he signed Matt Mitrione this past Monday, the heavyweight division.
I love Frank Mir, but I think he's done. If he wants to fight. Obviously, I think with both these guys, they've both, and one guy's case, he's been at the top of the mountain, and the other guy's case, he's gotten that chance, and I just don't, like I said, I don't see either of these guys contesting against,
Right.
We've seen Mark Hunt face Verdun and Miocic, and he lost both ones. We've seen Mir, even 5 years ago, facing guys like Dos Santos, and of course the second time around against Brock Lesnar. And I like these fights for what they are, but I don't see them.
Looking at the top 10, we'd have to end up in a situation where the heavyweight title, everybody is just kind of bottlenecked and booked for Hunt to be put in there. Obviously, he didn't take any damage. He's going to be fine. Let's see. We got Arlovsky, Brown, and Kane are booked up. Stipe is coming up next in May, I believe, right? Yeah. Overeem booked up. Overeem and Arlovsky, Rothwell and JDS. So
Travis Brown was
Brown and Kane.
Velasquez, yeah.
Just got announced. Yeah,
for 200.
I think. Let's see. So May is the title fight. So you're probably looking at September for the next heavyweight title fight, contingent on injuries and things like that. And so all of those guys would have to be out before you get to Mark, So I don't know. Who do you book him against?
Maybe Josh Barnett? No, I'm sorry. For Mark Hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Josh Barnett. That's a fight I don't think we've seen.
No, it's a good point.
I think I'm wrong.
We
haven't seen it in UFC.
Friends.
We haven't seen it in UFC. I know that it happened in Pride.
Yeah,
but we haven't seen it in around 10 years.
Yeah. Wow. Joe Bo's. I think Mark Carter, the ref who was trying to use this fight as an example to Steve Percival, the ref of Neil versus Hector. Maybe not. I don't know that I agree with that. God forbid that referees are using a match during the match as a litmus test or a lesson for other referees.
Well, let's talk about that fight, Neil Magny versus Hector Lombard.
Well, right quickly though, I want to talk about Frank's contract. I think he's a committed, lifelong Zuffa guy. I don't see Scott Coker may make a play for him, but I don't think I don't think even that Scott would realistically expect that. So I don't know that he would actually make the play, figuring it's kind of a waste of energy.
He rarely does it, but to be honest with you, I love Frank Mir's perspective on fights. I love, I said, he doesn't do it that much. No, I'm saying no, not overall perspective, but when he's on the panel,
right?
When he's covering, the Fox Sports panel, or with Jay Glazer or Karen Bryant. To me, the way he presents it is just so much. I love that aspect of him. So I think he, even if not fighting, I think he does have a future in that aspect of it. Becoming, maybe up there with Brian Stan.
Right. I didn't realize that Frank is. I don't remember him doing any
He's done
Fox
it maybe
stuff.
Twice.
He was great in WEC broadcasts when they were on Versus way back in the day. Yeah, he was really strong there.
So I think he has a lot to offer from that perspective. I don't think he's going to retire. Obviously, he's still relatively young. I want to see 35?
Retire or not. I think when he does retire, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's staying within the Zuffa organization. I agree. He's been there far too long, and he's too. I think he's one of their guys, in my opinion, because he comes into a fight with the right perspective. Amar Singh asks, a bit off topic, but did you guys see the Jones and Cormier sit down with Rogan being advertised during this event? Can't wait for that fight. These two guys really don't like each other.
We'll cover that a little bit toward later when we kind of go over a little bit more thoroughly
the
upcoming fights.
To answer your question, I thought the footage was great. I want to see more of it. I hope that they recorded enough of it to do at least a half-hour special, and I would think they would have. We'll see. But that's the only footage I've seen that's out there so far, and I'm sure we're going to see that ad nauseum until for the next 3 weeks or so. No, 4 weeks. Yeah. What do you want to talk about? What's next?
Magny versus Hector Lombard.
Magny versus Lombard. Oh gosh. That was my Fight of the Night nomination. I also would have given Magny a performance bonus nomination. So Magny defeats Lombard by TKO, right? Yeah, TKO, hammer fist in the full mount, a minute into the third. Lombard takes the first round. Magny is given the second round. Me and many, many MMA fans, much of the MMA universe, at least the ones online, seem to score it 10-8 for Magny in the first, 10-8 for... I'm sorry.
10-8 for
Lombard
yeah.
in the first, excuse me, and Magny 10-8 in the second. The Australian judges didn't see it that way, George. What do you make of that?
I mean, obviously, it's only fair that we talk about it because I know a lot of people are like, well, what's the point of talking about it? It's not like it went to decision anyways, but...
Right.
So
I think it's worth talking about.
With Holm and Tate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
did you score 10-9 or 10-8?
The first one I did have 10-9. The second one I had 10-8.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just didn't cross my mind. I was like, all right, 10-9. And
on
it's kind of
second viewing, I could possibly argue. I would lean toward Magny's round. The second one would be closer to a 10-9 than Lombard's, only because Lombard had a bit more offense, or Magny wasn't fully dominating. Comparatively as much as Lombard was in the first. But to me, absolutely, both were 10-8s. Dominance and damage are the two criteria. Big John on his podcast talks about this. That's the two biggest criteria to get a 10-8. And the idea, again, I spoke about this in the past. I know this is how Big John wants to see things. And it actually may be, come think of it, in the rules for the ABC, the unified rules, that a 10, what we think of as a 10-9, a standard, yeah, you definitely won that match or that round, should be a 10-8, whereas a lot of times it's scored as a 10-9. These absolutely were 10-8s by anybody's standard because there was dominance. Certainly so in Lombard's case in the first. You take those 5 minutes, at least 4 minutes, 30 seconds of that, Lombard dominated. He was in top position. Magny was rocked and totally defensive. And, visibly, at least by TV standards, looked like he was close to being out. Okay? In Magny's round, again, he also, there was a time that he also got top position, threatened with a triangle, rear naked choke, and then threw, I actually counted, in my notes I have 1,000,000 punches, but I counted, and technically it was only 103. But 103 unanswered, barely defended punches. Guys, that should be a 10-8. Now again, Magny didn't control the entire round to the same extent that Lombard did in the first, but when you have that damage, and Lombard was not defending a lot of those punches very well, and you have that dominance for that amount of time, that's worth a 10-8, regardless of what else happens in that round, okay? The differential in control and offense between Magny and Lombard in that second, even that was enough for me to give Magny a 10-8. And that's how I came to that.
See, I think with all due respect, I think not that many people were talking about the actual scores. I think more so we're talking about that fight should have ended at the end of the second round.
There's that concept, that conversation as well. I saw a lot of guys on Twitter. Some guys were posting the scorecard itself to say, these are 10-9, and what are these judges thinking? But yeah, that's another one. The referee, Steve Percival, and Joe Boza was mentioning that earlier. I wish I'd gone back and counted how many shots Lombard threw in the first, but it was probably more than 103. And Magny as well. Did you feel at any point that the referee should have jumped in? Did you see any point when
I think so. I mean, just because he didn't get knocked out, or get loopy. I mean, he was just laying there, and it was just tagging him. It's like, and I'm thinking,
are you talking about Magny?
Magny at the end of the second round.
Okay, not Lombard any time in the first.
I know. I don't think Magny was in that much danger. Like he was hurt, he was rocked,
right?
But I don't think it was like end of the fight rocked,
right?
But more so the end of because he was literally on the ground, like just laying there, and I mean, just kind of giving the ref a thumbs up doesn't mean that you're good to keep going.
Yeah,
you're good because you're still going to take a lot of punishment. I know Neil Magny thought the same way. He just kept looking at the ref as he's wailing on Lombard, like, well, what more do I have to do?
Both those guys had that look to the ref, like, dude, what do I got to do here, man? Come on, for both guys, I mean, in the same breath that there was a 10-8, I think you could have. I don't think Steve Percival would have been criticized for stopping the match in the first or in the second. But then again, that said, man, that's a hell of a story that Magny was able to come back from such a beating and finish it, early in the third. So in the same breath of all of this controversy, I'm not quite sure that I'm against Steve Percival letting it go.
See, and I know a lot of fighters might have thought the same way, but even like listening to Dan Hardy on the post-fight show, he was saying he'd rather it go. He was completely fine with it. He doesn't want to leave any doubt to somebody, still being maybe healthy enough to keep going. At the same time, though, even when that fight did end, it was pretty quick as far as like the ref saying, all right, Lombard's got no chance at this point. Like he was able to, similar to how Cerrone beat Oliveira, kind of crawled on and then kind of got in like this triangle and started wailing him. And, he knew it was done. So it's like, hey, let me give him a shot like he would with maybe everyone else. Rightfully so, because a lot of fighters, it happens maybe once every 2-3 cards that they think it's premature stoppage. And
at no point did I see either guy's body go limp, and therefore, I mean, it was close to a finish, but at no point did I think, okay, this is ridiculous. So I'm not mad at the finish. Both guys barely.
Like I'm not mad at over it. Like it was like I've seen a lot worse. I've seen a lot worse. But yeah, I mean I was fine with it. I mean it should have been stopped. I think it should have. But again, I'm not. Again, I've seen worse.
Yeah. Joe Boza is talking here about the main event for UFC 200. Sucks.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Opinion is clear here.
Just so we have enough time, let's kind of run down a little bit more. As Jake Matthews against Johnny Case. Again, I thought Jake Matthews looked great. I thought Case looked great too. Both guys I thought looked amazing, rightfully so. That's why they got the fight of the night.
Close fight. Both guys were in it. I gave Matthews the first and second, and obviously finished it with the win. Matthews look. It really was a tough fight for him, and I probably don't give enough credit to Case in my words here today. It's a tough fight, and Matthews was able to pull it out. I saw he was circling on the outside a lot. Both guys were kind of being a bit economical. I thought with their punches. Being careful in the first and the second.
I thought Case had him for the first round or two.
I gave it. I thought that the standing was pretty even. Case stuffed a takedown. Both guys landed hard early later in the first. There was that left on Case that you heard, and he just no-sold it. And then I think Case landed a right on Matthews. And Matthews, getting the back towards the end, had to work for it quite a bit. Almost had it in the third, and then everything was Case going for a clinch, going for a takedown, but then Matthews got on top of him, worked for a while, and eventually got the finish there.
Yeah, good fight.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Steve Bossy against James Hoonah?
Steve Bossy's a funny story. I was looking him up. I must be getting him mixed up with another guy. There was another fighter, and I'll bring this back to Bacon in a second. In the MFC in Edmonton, Maximum Fighting Championships, a lot of current UFC guys have come from there. Our guy Sam Alvey, I believe, was a champion there. But I thought I thought Steve had fought there because I think there was another former hockey enforcer, who had a winning record and fought there once or twice, and then was about to get picked up by the UFC, and then he didn't. And somehow that story is meshed with Steve Bossy's, where been around since 2007. After a career in pro hockey, finally getting signed by the UFC and then retiring. I think there was some aches and pains. As he said, his body was telling him that it was time to retire. Took 2014. That was in 2013. Takes 2014 off, like the day after he gets signed by the UFC, decides to retire, and then sits a year out and comes back. Is still the UFC apparently still honored his contract. Lost. in his first match against
Thiago Santos.
Thank you. Name I was just blanking on. Pick up where I left off. And then comes back and gets this fight. So, nice kind of almost like a Cinderella Man story, I think. But he looked good.
He looked good, yeah. Hoonah didn't look good. He hasn't looked good in a while.
Yeah. Bossy, right, left, right combo, and just finished him. I don't know. I can't tell you about Hoonah offhand. It's been a while really since he was kind of
fourth straight loss.
Is that the fourth?
I know he lost against that one fight in New Zealand against Nate Marquardt. I remember that day because it was like one of those double headers, like the 2 shows in one day, and one of the fights was in New Zealand against Nate the Great, and he lost against that one. I think he lost against Shogun.
He sat last year out. Last one was 2013 against Ryan Jimmo. Wow, first round losses. But then again, the guys that he's lost to be fair. Glover Teixeira in 2013. I think that was about when Glover was on his run. Shogun Hua, Nate Marquardt, and Steve, as you said. Yeah,
he's getting finished in the first round too. So he's losing to top guys, but he's also losing in KO and submission and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Sounds like it'd be a good pickup for Bellator.
What were you like of this show? I like fight of the night.
I like the women's matches.
Yeah,
I thought Leslie Smith and Rinna Kai was great.
Yeah,
I thought Beck Rollins and Sohee Ham was great. I thought they were both great. And it's funny. I saw somebody on Twitter, and I this is one of my new pet peeves when they go, "Wow, the women are out there to prove themselves." They want to show that they belong.
Yeah.
And I say, you know what? No, I didn't reply on Twitter because I don't do that. But I was thinking about it. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't think they go out there to fight and say, I'm gonna fight good because I want to be compared to the guys.
Yeah.
I want to be better than the guys. I think that's their fight. They just have this instinct about them that they're just out there to fight.
We're past that, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're past that point of, it's women fighting in the UFC.
I know they said that a lot about even back in the day when it was in Elite XC, when Gina Carano was fighting, and all her fights were amazing, and they're like, oh wow, the best fight is a women's fight and whatnot. I think that's just the way they fight. It's not about being better than a guy or whatever.
We've seen shitty women's fights too.
Yeah,
there's been enough of them. I think the UFC averages about 2 a show these days. We've seen enough of them where you have enough matches where there's good ones and then there's shitty ones, but when there was a dearth of them and when it was kind of a special attraction, you had Gina. In Ronda's fights, those were quick finishes. There were great ones. Trying to think who else. Marloes Coenen, always delivered as well. But
even watching some of the Invicta fights the other day. Who was the girl that knocked out Jessamine Duke?
I don't remember. I didn't watch the Invicta show.
There wasn't
because I'm a chauvinist pig, guys.
I wasn't Irene Aldana. It was the other girl, the other Hispanic girl.
Alexis. No. The other one when we saw, when they came to LA, right?
The other Hispanic one. I think she was from Argentina, but she knocked out Jessamine Duke. Those girls are just I think the way they train and the way they fight. I think it's just the way of I don't want to say they think less. It just I feel like they're more they're more focused on what it is that they want. They don't waste time and they don't sit there and because we've seen a lot of fights, men and women, where they just kind of feel each other out for a minute or two, or maybe even a round or two. They hold back a little bit. I just don't see that with the women. I don't think it's anything nothing to do with men or women. I just think that women just are more focused on what it is that they want.
I would say so. Well, I don't know that's. It's a
because I saw that yesterday. I saw that
the women per se. I think it may have just been those matches.
Maybe because I was very much so impressed yesterday with both Beck Rawlings and Leslie Smith. Then again, Rinna Kai and Sohee Ham too. They took beating. Rinna Kai took a beating. She can take a hit.
Yeah, and that's I think why she's there in the UFC.
Absolutely.
She's got a great physique, so where a win over her looks pretty tremendous.
She's 5'1" and she's built.
Yeah.
She has to be if you're going to be, and not even a strawweight. She's got a 115 division, but no, she fights at 135, and she's 5'1".
Yeah, Beck, I think I'm speculating myself, but might have been under some pressure to win. She was certainly focused, but there was a lot of pressure, fighting on that show in I think actually her own hometown, I believe.
Is she from Brisbane?
I believe that's how she was announced. Yeah.
Okay.
But of course, training in San Diego with Alliance MMA, Eric Del Fiero, and those guys. But I can see how that brings out the best in you, obviously. And Leslie Smith and Rin Nakai, honestly, to me, it was a match. Leslie Smith looked good in beating somebody like Rin Nakai. Rin, I'd like to see a match where she kind of shows more, but I suspect that may be where we've seen her game, punches straight through, clinch onto you, and then, get in underneath and take you down to the ground. But that wasn't the case. She didn't have that luck with Misha. She didn't have that luck with Leslie. I fear that she may kind of become a bit of a gatekeeper, in the Pacific region and Oceania when they do shows in Asia, because otherwise I don't know why you bring her out here to the U.S.
Well, last thing before, because I really want to talk about the upcoming fights, is our boy Alan Jouban.
Oh yeah,
he looked great.
Salute, my friend. You can't see this on iTunes, but you're probably not listening to it there anyway.
I mean, obviously, he coming back from a loss in his last fight against Alberto Tumanov just a few months ago, and I mean, you can tell this guy was just. I mean, he looked like
Albert?
Alan Jouban.
Albert. Is it Albert Tumanov or
Alan Jouban?
Yes, I know who won. Tumanov.
Albert Tumanov.
Is it Albert? I think you're getting mixed up with
now
Freudian Del Rio slip there.
Something like that. Is it Alberto Del Rio?
You said Alberto Tumanov. Yeah, Alberto Tumanov.
Alberto, whatever. Jouban looked good.
The other Al.
Yeah, Alan Jouban. 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 Actually, both of them are wrong.
Jouban.
But I know he got tagged a little bit, but he just kept going.
Yeah. Slight trip there at the beginning against Brendan O'Reilly. But got back up, and the knees and the elbows. That's trademark Allen. It was the case. He was implementing and practicing that stuff early in the days when he was doing Muay Thai smoker fights. Actually, just around the corner here from the studios. Always been kind of if not his main course, then bread and butter. A side dish, his side salad, and he looked good for it. Let's see. Dropped him. Let's see. Combos and elbows, and dropped Brendan O'Reilly 215 in the first. I thought that was an early contender for performance bonus of the night. So hopefully, Alan, Julio Trana, I want to get you guys in studio here. I have a date, in fact. I'm going to try. Hopefully,
you have a date with them? Nice.
I have a date in mind.
That Jouban's a good-looking cat. See him on billboards every now and then.
If I can, if I could get a date with Alan Jouban,
I wonder if he looks at somebody like Sage Northcutt and be like, "Oh, it's that guy."
It looks
competition. I wonder if he looks at guys like Sage Northcutt and be like, "Oh no, competition."
I don't think so.
I'm supposed to be the only male model in the UFC.
Well, there's a couple of them. Elias Torudil, the Canadian. I know I'm butchering his name, but
until
you guys know
until I'm driving around, and I think there's one like on Ventura.
Yeah, Ventura as well.
Like by Taft High School, so near that Target.
Okay.
I forgot what the brand is, but I was like, oh, look at that, Alan Jouban.
I've seen him on an Ed Hardy billboard on Ventura.
I think
Boulevard.
It was Ed Hardy, yeah.
This was a couple of years ago, but I was like, yeah, click. And they've got him on Hollywood Boulevard, a new gym that's going to open up, one of these nice big fitness boutiques.
Oh yeah, I think that was a gym. I think it was a gym
just east of Vine, but like Hollywood.
So until I see other fighters, randomly on non-UFC billboards, then talk to me. But it's for now.
He's
Alan
the most
Jouban.
workingest model, and yes, I do know I just coined a word. But hopefully we can get Alan and his coach Julio Trana in here. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the last time we were here, UFC 196, 2 days or 1 day before that, they had this big UFC Unstoppable campaign going over so many fights that were just coming up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 events that just have big repercussions for any of the divisions that they're in. Obviously, going down the list, the next one is Junior Dos Santos versus Ben Rothwell. That's a fight that I'm really looking forward to. Yeah, Ben Rothwell on this. I don't. Streak would be an understatement. Just this tear of destruction. Like, oh my god! Like
slash and
this
burn.
guy just came out of nowhere, literally. And
no, not literally. He came out of Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Okay, maybe not literally.
But he's been here for a while. I mean, the gimmick, obviously, guys, as the fans know, he's been around for a while. Kind of a bit of a journeyman guy, if you will. Name recognizable, probably as far back this earliest claim to fame is probably the IFL, was one of the standout guys there. But even then, he kind of... I think the rub against him has always been that he looks a bit older physically than he actually is. Balding early, not a huge yoked out physique. It looks like he comes from the Cheesehead State. No offense, Ben, but he's a bad MF. He also looks like he belongs on an episode of Vikings. Like the big, tall, dumb, like the Berserker.
He's one of those guys where you just see him and you hear him talk, you hear him in his post-fight interviews, and you're like, wow, I hope that guy does well. Yes. You know what I mean? And he's a guy that's on the up. Dos Santos, obviously, for the longest time, he was one of the top 2 heavyweights for a long time. It used to be Kane and Dos Santos and everyone else. Obviously, Dos Santos has had... maybe lost 3 of his last 5, so obviously he hasn't been as good as he was before. So you kind of have this, guy on the up, guy on the down. So we're going to see how that goes. I mean, again, I nothing but the best for Rothwell. I mean, that guy, what do you think?
I think it's going to be really fun. I like watching these kind of underdog. What do you want to call it? Guys that you don't expect. It's like he's a working class fighter. Mixed bag that he's fought in different promotions, but since he's come to the UFC, I think it was kind of middle of the ground really. He's not his win streak has come during his tenure, but not at the beginning of it. Correct?
I mean, any guy who can submit Josh Barnett.
There's that. That's what I'm saying, guys.
And knock out over him.
Yeah, Amir Singh is talking about the Gogo. Ben Gogo Choke may have JDS's number. He's predicting. Amar Singh, pardon me again. Joe Boza says Ben's won 4 in a row with a win over JDS. It should put him in the running for a title shot. Absolutely agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that could be fun to watch. I think I said this several episodes back whenever last time we were talking about Ben. That can be one of those matches that on paper it might not really look like it's something that it's money, that you can really sell it, but I disagree. I think that Ben Rothwell going for the title against whoever is there, that could be a lot of fun.
I mean, real quick, just to go over that division, there's another fight coming up May 8th, UFC Fight Night 87, Alistair Overeem versus Andrei Arlovsky. That's another fight where, again, if either one of them win, give them a title shot. So now for the I'm happy that for the first time in a while, we have this very much so stacked heavyweight division, especially the top 5 or 6. As I mentioned, it was Kane, JDS, and everyone else for the longest time. So now you have, what happens if Overeem knocks out Arlovsky? What happens if Arlovsky knocks out Overeem? Well, Arlovsky just lost. And then the following, week after that, then it's your actual heavyweight championship fight with Verdun and Miocic at is that the Brazil one?
That is Brazil.
Is that the Curitiba one?
That is, May 14th. Verdum and Stipe, and then Vitor Belfort and Jacare.
So I'm happy that this heavyweight division's finally
we're gearing up for the summertime to have a lot of different options. Now, I don't think that we'll see the title defended until September probably, but maybe August if they need a fast turnaround. But, I think right now they're probably just still thinking about July anyway.
I mean, just to stick with that division, too. I mean, they announced Cain Velasquez versus Travis Brown. So
we're finally getting to mix up the bottleneck. Yeah. I personally think that I hate to phrase it this way, but I personally think that the UFC was really hoping that Cain would have more of a career than he necessarily did. Wouldn't be as sidelined with injuries and that it would bottleneck things up. And I think they've probably learned from that. I think they knew that early on to begin with, previous to Cain. But I think they saw Cain as a potential next Brock, and it hasn't worked out. And I think it's taken some time, between the Cain, Verdum, and Dos Santos, especially Dos Santos. That whole saga, that it's taken time to get past that, and now we're finally past that with Verdum as champion. Notwithstanding that he also pulled out, prior to the Cain fight.
Yeah.
Joe Bose is saying here, Rory and Stefan's good fight to watch. That's in Calgary, right? No, Ottawa.
Ottawa, Canada.
Yeah. Stefan is on 6-fight win streak. Plus, Rory has 1 fight left on his contract. Yeah, indeed. What do you make of that? That Rory deciding to ride on his contract?
I'm not going to lie. I don't really care. I'm not going to lie. I've never been a big Rory McDonald fan. I can care less what he does. If Wonder Boy goes to Bellator, I'll be like, oh, I'm a little pissed. But Yeah,
but you're still allowed to watch Bellator.
I can care less about Rory McDonald.
Yeah.
But even like the UFC on Fox night, that is a stacked card.
Lord of mercy, that, huh?
Good Lord, especially headlined by Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, I'm kind of curious. Like, you can always agree that Ferguson's going to show up, but Khabib, the guy hasn't fought in, 2 years? You kind of figure, and especially coming off a big injury where, you've been gone for such a long time. So we'll see how that goes. I mean,
And frankly, coming out of AKA, this is not to say that he can't be injured right now, but still deciding to go through with the fight because of the layoff. Mm-hmm. And so are we going to necessarily see Khabib at his top?
He's the last guy to beat Rafael Dos Anjos, so again, who knows? Whoever wins that fight, I think, got to be a title shot.
That's if that show doesn't do huge ratings, I don't know what. Guys, I mean, you've got just about you've got a lot of people coming up. You're kind of setting the stage for the future, but you also got some name talent that is going to draw from casual fans that aren't hip to the fact that these guys are probably not. Or probably past their prime. I know there's a change with Rashad Evans. Who's the new opponent? I forgot.
Glover Teixeira.
Glover? Okay, yeah. Rashad and Glover, case in point, I hate to say. Dan Henderson and Lyoto Machida, these are names that are going to attract mainstream casual fans.
And especially if they put this maybe on the first fight of the night, Rose Namajunas versus Tisha Torres.
Right.
That's going to be a fun fight to watch.
Yep, number one contenders match there. Benil Dariush has a match versus Michael Chiesa. We see the return of Betch Correia, who's always fun to watch. And, John Dodson coming back, fighting Manny Gambarian. I think that's his first win back at 35 pounds, excuse me. And Cub Swanson coming back, facing Hakran Diaz. That is not an easy match at all.
And then the one after that, we have UFC 197. That's going to be a fun one to just watch in general. I mean, oh my God. Just from bottom up, you have Robert Whittaker versus Rafael Natal, Anthony Pettis versus Andros Edson Barboza. That's going to be a fun fight. I mean, Henry Cejudo against DJ. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if DJ beats Cejudo, I honestly don't know what else to do with that division. I mean, that's it. But of course, we have DC versus Bones Jones. I mean, that's going to be, so many storylines there.
So I'm going up into the chat here. I'm trying to find where Amar Singh, he brought this up.
About the
the sit down with Joe Rogan.
I feel like it was the same one that they had last time, the kind of the preview. So I'm still waiting for the longer version to come out. So I want to be able to talk about more.
It reminded me a lot of Anik when he interviewed Dillashaw and
Dominic Cruz.
Cruz, yeah. Did they ever end up doing a longer version of that, or was that just on UFC Insider?
I think that was just on UFC.
Okay, all right. I would have loved to see a longer version of that. And hopefully we will see a longer version of Rogan, DC, and Jones.
Yeah, and then fast forward to the Curitiba card. Did they officially announce Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall?
It's a good question. I saw it on the internet.
Assuming that they did, I will say this. If Silva can't beat Hall, just retire.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, on one hand, I understand the point. On the other hand, Ben Rothwell.
It's funny.
Frank Mir.
First of all, real quick, I know we're about to wrap right now, or we're wrapping up right now, but Patrick Cummins versus Antonio Rogero Nogueira. First off, I thought Nogueira was retired. I thought Little Nog was retired.
No, just Big Nog.
He beat he lost to Shogun.
Rogerio had never officially retired that I remember. Big Nog did.
And then we have UFC 199 from The Forum in Inglewood, California. Rockhold versus Weinman. I still think Weinman's a flash in the pan. Dominic Cruz versus Faber. That's going to be a fun fight. I mean, I disagree with that matchup. I think Faber, he's so up and down that I don't think he should automatically give him a title shot. But a lot of story there, obviously, from a promoter's hat standpoint. Put on the promoter's hat, it makes the most sense for the most business. But the fight that we want to just talk about really quickly, that is just rumored for now, nothing official, but Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. Rematch. In the welterweight division for UFC 200.
That's my answer.
I completely...
In the welterweight division.
The only thing that makes sense to me, and this is even if it's possible, the only way this makes sense if it's at 145.
Yeah.
If it's at 170...
Which is not going to happen, of course.
Exactly. But, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what the lowest Nate Diaz can go. But for this fight to happen again in the same division, even if it's at 155, you can't beat, what was he, the number 5 ranked lightweight?
Right.
I mean, what's the point? There's no point to this fight.
The point is monetary.
Why?
It did huge numbers Reportedly, well, the box office we know, pay-per-view presumably so. I'm hearing reports about like 1.4. That's big, and so that's why you want to make from Zuffa's perspective. You want 200 to be a box office success as well as something that everyone
McGregor
can
versus
look back
Edgar
on.
and Nate Diaz versus Rafael dos Anjos.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it too.
Damn it, we're supposed to argue. We're supposed to disagree with this. It makes for interesting conversation when we're disagreeing.
We disagree with you guys, Zuffa. I hate to say, but that is the case. I don't see anybody really being that excited, strangely enough, about this match. I mean, we know that the match is going to be exciting, the match itself, but it doesn't make a lot of storyline sense, quite frankly. It does make business sense based on precedent.
The only way it makes sense if it's for the 145 title. That's the only way it makes sense.
That's irrelevant because that's obviously not going to happen.
Why not? Nate Diaz can't make 145?
Not realistically so. I mean, Conor barely could apparently.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that. I don't think that's a smart one. I haven't heard many people saying that.
That's the thing. That's the only way it makes sense. I don't want to see this fight at all unless it's for the title.
I think Conor and Frankie
much storyline. Yeah, absolutely. I say Frank Edgar above everyone else. But if you're gonna make Nate Diaz, like now what? Like now what happens if Conor wins? Now what? Now what happens if he loses? Now what? There's nothing to gain from this, in my opinion.
I agree with your booking completely. RDA. And Nate Diaz, and that other one.
I mean, I don't know. I'm really curious what Dana White has to say about this. I'm really thinking. I really want to know what his mindset around this is. Like I said, it just they must have something in mind to make this. I don't know. I'm upset about this. I'm really upset. As a fight fan, I'm really upset about this.
Well, there's other things in life to be more upset about.
There really isn't. But if you want to keep this going on the Twitter, or of course on the YouTube comments, because we always read the YouTube comments, especially the negative ones.
Amar and Joe Boza are going back and forth about this. I think they're probably agreeing on the same thing.
And by the way, real quick, I know we're wrapping up soon, but wrapping up right now. But I don't get Jose Aldo's Conor was a little bitch, whatever. Dude, didn't you lose to him in 13 seconds? I don't think he's allowed to say anything about Conor McGregor.
Fighters are allowed to say whatever they want to say. Of course they are, regardless of whether it makes sense or not.
Conor McGregor has done more. Like his. I can't say more. Follow me at G Hermoza, GHERMOZA, Twitter, Instagram.
This guy,
YouTube, Snapchat, etc.
And I'm JTan716. As Coach Ernie DeBella said, get out of here. I'm tired of looking at you.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.